Hey everybody, I'm talking today with Katelin Hubbard, who is an amazing Dr. Katelin Hubbard.
Mhm.
She is an expert at DNA stuff, and I'm going to let her explain it in just a moment because she explains it really beautifully. And she comes from a background of spooky and holistic medicine. So I'm so proud and honored to welcome you today, Caitlin. It is amazing. We met on TikTok, and you should follow Caitlin there. And Caitlin, any other places where people should find you?
We have a website, Genetics for the People. And I try to post on other socials, but TikTok's kind of my main one. So,
Yeah, very cool. Well, my name's Heather Kate, and I'm a psychic medium, a spiritual coach, and I help people to recover from narcissistic abuse. But part of that is having a really healthy body as much as possible, as well as healthy spirituality, emotions, mental state, all of that fits together. And one of the things I love about you, Caitlin, is that you do this and I personally have benefited from finding the foods that were right for me in a massive way.
yeah.
Um, can you explain a little bit about how some of that works and why you're doing some of this research and how you got into this and your grandmother and where you
Yeah.
grew up and how all of this comes together?
Right. So I grew up in deep Appalachia, and it was kind of wild because my dad's side of the family, they were herbalists, right? And they were kind of impoverished. So herbalism was kind of like the medicine that they had. And they used herbalism for a lot. I can remember that, my grandmother would send my dad and uncles out in the woods to get her supplies that she needed. And she would coat my sister's like neck when she was a baby in face and yellow root because she just had like, a rash from when she drooled when she was like an infant and
Oh,
stuff. So she was really big into herbalism. And then my mom's side of the family were very like kind of conventional medicine, but still had like the Appalachian twist on it. My mom was one of the first neuro certified nurses in West Virginia, and she worked on neuro floor for 30 plus years. Yeah, she was pregnant with me when she was in nursing school, so I think I absorbed some of that in the womb. Yeah. My grandfather was one of the like leading experts on blast furnaces and actually worked on like a spacecraft. Yeah, the heat shield. Yeah.
wow.
My aunt is a speech language pathologist. My dad is a cytotechnologist. So it's very like STEMmy side over there, but they're all, I mean, we grew up in deep Appalachia, so it's all spooky. I was always told to trust my intuition, and grew up hearing about the seventh son of the seventh son and like buying warts off of people and all kinds of crazy things. So that's kind of always been in kind of like my field of vision, and I've always kind of known it as true. But being raised in a situation where people like genuinely couldn't afford healthcare, and knowing that these people like have to choose between buying food for their kids and picking up their medication, and every single time they will always choose making sure that they provide for their kids. I think as any one of us would, right? Um, I very quickly realized that we need some other options. These people are extremely intelligent. I dropped my Appalachian accent when I was younger because I was, always kind of looked down, and kind of they would say that people are not as smart because they had an accent. And I'm from this area, and I know that these people are some of the brightest people I've ever met, and they're scrappy. So I was like, these people just need more options. Like they need to know what to eat. They need somebody to believe that they can understand all of this stuff. They just need presented the information. And they need
Mhm.
to know what actually works for them so they can do it. If that means that they need to grow it in their front yard as an herb, then let's go. If that means that, maybe they can afford conventional medicine if they want to take that, if they want to do that route, but which one would be the best for them? Because this trial and error isn't working for everybody. So that's kind of how the company was designed. And then there was a lot of school, a lot of college in between to try to just figure out how to do this the best way possible. And then just recently graduated. and now we're getting ready to launch. Yeah.
Woohoo!
Mm-hmm.
So impressive.
I'm
So
I'm so
impressive.
excited.
So, you can inform us a little bit better than I can say it, but I refer to it as the motherfucker gene.
Yeah.
Very rudely, I know, but that thing is suck. It's, so my limited understanding of it is that almost half the population has this
Mhm.
variant. But if almost half the people have it, then how variant really is it? And shouldn't we be careful for everybody? And why aren't we?
Mhm.
And what are some of so MTHFR, I think,
Mhm.
is
You got
the
it.
the,
Yeah.
cor the correct abbreviation. But can you tell us a little bit about how this affects some people and
Mhm.
why they might want to learn more about if this is happening to them?
Right. So the MTHFR gene, it's called methylene tetrahydrofolate reductase is the long word. Everybody calls it the mother, like everybody. But it is a gene that does have a really high variance. So when we say that you have this gene, a lot of people, everybody has the gene, I hope. But when we say you have the gene, a lot of people, what they mean by that is you have a mutation in the gene, so it doesn't work really well, right? And in this gene, its job is to convert a form of folate that's a little closer to what you get into food into the active form of folate. That's the form that our bodies can use. And then this goes on to make this really cool compound called SAM. And SAM does a billion different things. SAM will turn your genes on and off, just depending on if you need that gene or not. SAM helps you make all of your neurotransmitters, so dopamine, serotonin, melatonin, epinephrine. SAM will actually go and degrade estrogen, which is awesome. So you don't have, an estrogen excess.
Which, if
SAM
you're menopause or perimenopause, you need to know about.
Right, yeah. SAM will help keep viruses that maybe are living inside of your body and you can't get rid of, like Epstein-Barr virus,
Lyme
cytomegalovirus, stuff
related?
like that. Yeah, it keeps them silent so they don't express and cause you problems.
Ooh.
Um, it plays a role in over 100 different things, and it's extremely important. It forms collagen for good, healthy joints and healthy aging. It forms the myelin sheath around your brain cells, so that way, we're seeing an increase in POTS right now, and an increase of all kinds of other things that could be related to that. So it's very important. And yeah, a lot of people have this gene mutation. So it kind of makes you think like if a lot of people have it, it can't be that serious, right? But when we look at genes, we have to look at kind of like evolutionarily when our genes were set at this set point, right? We have spent thousands, however many years, I don't want to get into the debate, however many years, in kind of like a pre-industrial hunter-gatherer or maybe like close farming with all organic stuff society. It wasn't really until the 1950s and 1960s that synthetic chemistry was even a thing. So since the 1950s, 1960s, and post World War II, we've added a ton of synthetic chemicals to the environment. And maybe we only needed this gene to run at 30% to handle all of the toxins in the environment, plus in our body, plus do all these other jobs, right? But now we like desperately need this gene to run at 90, 100, 120% because we're trying to process out all of this extra stuff, plus just do our basic functions. So, eventually, if we kind of just left it alone, the people with these gene mutations would be less fit to survive and have kids and reproduce and take care of those children, and it would weed out of the population. But we're not okay with that because it's 2025 and we're going to fight back against that. So, one of the big things about just learning about MTHFR is just kind of like learning about your genes. Like, can you handle folic acid, which is the folate that we put in foods that's synthetic? Can you handle all of these chemicals? Is there a certain class of chemicals that you need to avoid? If you can learn more about your genes and how they work, then you can kind of weave around all these gene mutations and live a healthy life in a world that is contaminated.
Which is exactly what you help people to do.
Right.
Which is amazing. Um, so I have heard an abnormally high number of young pregnant and recently pregnant women saying that they were having essentially psychosis, like hearing things, seeing things. And is this connected to folate and the motherfucker gene?
It could be. You need SAM, which is one of the end goals of the MTHFR gene, is to eventually generate SAM. Now, 70 to 80% of that goes to creatine formation, actually, and that stuff you can just like kind of take over the counter. So most of it goes to creatine. The rest of it goes to the little compounds that make up your cells, the little bubbles. But then a lot of the rest of it goes to just getting rid of your neurotransmitters. So if you have too much dopamine and too much serotonin, we know that that is implicated in things like psychosis and schizophrenia, and just these conditions, serotonin syndrome, these conditions where maybe they're seeing things that aren't there, or maybe they're seeing things that maybe aren't here but are there. Like, we don't have any data on any of this, so
Right.
I don't know. But if you have an MTHFR mutation, if you're not trying methylfolate or folinic acid, there's some differences on which one you should try. Then yeah, you're not going to degrade your dopamine correctly. And you're not going to be able to degrade your serotonin. You're going to get into a situation where you have way too much. And that can also cause anxiety, and kind of like anger and irritation. And that's kind of what we're seeing now.
Mhm, mhm. And, my understanding is that pregnant women are still encouraged to take some type of folic acid, which, if you can't process it properly, is what
Right.
causes all these problems that we just talked about. So that's one reason to check into your services if, you know, if
Mhm.
somebody's watching this or you have a loved one who's pregnant or thinking about getting pregnant, please check into this stuff. I cannot I could not believe how many people I encountered who were saying they had this problem, and it's
Mhm.
severe. I mean, it's like the kind of thing that, you could drive off the road with your kids in the car with you with, something's not working right.
Right.
So it's so important to know, to understand, and, thankfully your business is providing a service that people can use to make sure that they're safe and that, you know, they also don't need to blame themselves. If
Oh,
this
yeah.
is
Yeah.
this
Absolutely.
could
Yeah.
just be something that you just need to stop taking that
Mhm.
supplement and watch what you're eating, because it's in so many foods. It does seem kind of loaded, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. And like something that can be an easy fix. So if you take methylfolate, which is the product of the MTHFR gene, sometimes in some people it can kind of get stuck. And it can cause kind of fight or flight, but more on the fight than the flight symptoms. You can get irritability, anger, aggression, stuff like that. So just to kind of like bypass all of that, the easier thing to take is just folinic acid. I
How do you
think it's
spell that?
folinic, FOLINIC acid. Now it's
Okay.
different from folic acid. It's folinic.
Yep.
Seeking Health, I think, is one of the brands that sells just like the methyl-free prenatal vitamin, and that's actually a lot safer to high dose because that doesn't have a methyl donor in it. You can take high doses. I've never seen a single person be incompatible with folinic acid. So if somebody's just like, I don't have my DNA, I don't have the money to get a consult, I'm barely making it by, folinic acid is going to jump over everything that you need to jump over, and it's going to be, yeah, your best bet.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Um, can we switch topics a teeny little bit for a second?
Yeah.
Can you tell us some of your favorite spooky stories from Appalachia?
Oh, I mean, I have so many. It's it's just like the whole place has like a different energy to it. I love going back home because I mean, it's like the woods are alive. I don't know how many times I've been hiking and I've like heard my name called and I'm like, okay, we're just gonna leave. I'm not dealing with anything that's calling my name in my voice in the woods. Yeah. I I mean just like crazy things to where like even in my house, it'll come in my house. Like my grandmother passed away and it was kind of expected, but as soon as I got the text message saying that she had like passed, I had like a wine bottle sitting on my counter and the cork just like shot across the room. And I guess that was like my grandmother being like, have a glass of wine. Stop being so stressed out.
I
Um,
think that's very symbolic too, though. Like
yeah.
she's been uncorked from her body.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, for sure. All the women in my family are extremely strong, outspoken women, so it would not surprise me. We have people in our line that were part of the witch trials that they didn't, yeah. My 13th
Where?
grandmother on one of the sides, I think 2 out of 4 of the sides have like accused witches that didn't make it, but their children did, so like the line continued. Yeah, so like the whole line down is just
Salem or
very
England?
spooky.
Like Massachusetts,
England.
USA? England.
Yeah, yeah. So, but it just kind of like explains things. I mean, we have in my house, I have books fly off the bookshelf to the point where like my babysitter was like, the books flew off the bookshelf today, and I was like, I'll light a candle. I'm sorry. Like, I don't know what to tell you. It just happens in this house. I was having a discussion with a friend and I was like trying to make a point. And I was like, no, we need to do it this way, right? And it was like a happy, like just like a friendly debate. And his dishwasher turned on and it hasn't turned on. Like he's not turned it on in months. And I was like, see, they agree with me. Like we should go with mine. He was like, did that just happen? I was like, it's so common. So common that I just like roll with it now. And I'm like, yeah, they're opinionated. Like they like to speak their own truth and make it very well known. It's just it's Appalachia is wild.
Why do you think it's that way? Do you think there's anything to do with like ley lines? Is it because of the people that went there? Is it something that was there before people came? Hold on one second, I'll be right back.
No, you're fine.
Sorry. Okay, I needed water. I needed air.
Yes. No. I don't know. I don't know if it's all of the families or if it's just like my family's always been extremely respectful and tried to work with the land to be really respectful.
That's
We
awesome.
Yeah, we have Native American heritage, and we try to make sure that whatever we do with the land, we respect it. We respect the culture, obviously, because we're very much a part of it. But we've also trusted our intuition very heavily, and we were taught to trust that very heavily since we were little.
Who
Um,
taught you that?
um, all of the women in my family were like, if you just have a bad feeling about something, you need to immediately, no negotiation, just do whatever your intuition tells you to do. Like I
Wow.
have had days where I didn't go to school because my intuition just told me that not to go for some weird reason, and there happens to be like a 10-car pileup on the way there.
Mm, mm.
Or yeah, I'll have situation to where maybe my kids want to go on like this sleepover or something, and I'm like, I don't know, I just have a bad feeling about it. And something happens to where like, yeah, I wouldn't have been comfortable if you were in that situation. So they've kind of always just taught us to really honor our intuition and like to believe in it, kind of discern. Like you've got to figure out what's your intuition and what's your like your anxiety, right?
Mhm,
And
mhm.
probably feel different. But I mean, since we were old enough to talk, we were taught to really kind of lean into that and to listen to it because it
How
absolutely matters.
how were you taught that? My family was the opposite. There's also witches.
Mhm.
My grandmother, it's but but like literally I was taught, well, no, let's look at the rational list. And
Yeah.
now if I hadn't done that, my life would be so different. So different. And I think it's so important. I think, it's like teaching kids, yes, your boundaries are valuable and important. You don't have to, say hi to that person or whatever. I think it's
Right.
in the same category. It's so important. So how exactly how do you teach your kids? What's the
Um, so it, first off, it's not something you can really ignore. It is like somebody's yelling at you. If it's really serious, I mean, it'll hit me so hard. Like one time I was not paying attention and I would have walked in front of a car and it's like I got yelled at. You need to stop. And it's so like startling that you're like, "Oh my gosh, what was that?" You're like, "Oh, yeah, that would have been bad." One time and you can probably Google this. I think it was like in 98 or 99. I was little. I had a little sister and she was little and they're back in these days, right? This was like in southern Ohio, close to West Virginia. There was like this fireworks store that was in a house. And they used to in Appalachia, they used to put the fireworks in like older houses and just sell out of the house, right? And we were shopping for fireworks and my mom got this like overwhelming urge just to get out, like just leave. And she said it felt like somebody was just like shoving her out the door. So we
oh,
left. And this was kind of before the days of like cell phones where like I think we had like one of those bag cell phones, but that was it. We
oh,
ended up
that's pretty
using,
advanced
yeah,
for that,
yeah, it was.
Most people didn't have that.
I know. We were fancy. But we did not knowing what happened. We went to the park after that and mom just thought she was crazy. And then we went to eat lunch with my stepfather and he was like, "Oh my gosh, you're okay. Thank goodness." Apparently somebody had like thrown a lit firework into the building and like multiple people had died.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we are kind of always taught that the weird like overwhelming urges that you get that you didn't consciously like take steps in your brain to get to that. Like if I'm not even thinking about that and something just like pushes in all of a sudden, it's like, hey, there's this, right? That those are kind of different. And then like if you get an overwhelming sense of like nothing's happening, like nothing's going on, nothing should trigger this, right? But it's just like a sudden hit of like be aware of your surroundings, something's going, like pay attention to that. And I think it's just because it's so strong that's kind of hard to deny. So that definitely helps a bit.
What are some of the first times where your kids um indicated to you that they were picking up on something?
Let me see. My kids will do weird, funny things to where I can kind of see that they're like picking up on stuff. Like my kids will mention like just something like one of my kids mentioned liquid nitrogen because I'm a scientist and I used to do research like in a lab. So they're used to liquid nitrogen. They've seen it multiple times. We've played with it when they
Oh,
were
cool.
born. So one of my kids will mention liquid nitrogen, and then I'll find out that like 5 minutes later, one of my good friends was getting a liquid nitrogen delivery. And it's just like random. Like he should not have picked up on that. It shouldn't have been a correlation, but they do little things like that all the time. Well, they're like mention something and they don't even know the person that's like that it's happening to, but they'll kind of pick up on it. And they can do things like my daughter is really good about being like, it's gonna rain soon, or like we need to get inside because it's gonna rain, or or we'll be inside, and they're like, did you shut your car windows? I think it's gonna rain soon. I'm like, how did you okay? Like it's sunny outside. Like where are you getting this from? And like 20 minutes later, it'll be a torrential downpour, and I'm like, I didn't close my car windows. Like I should have.
Oh, wow.
So like they pick up on like little things like that. We're still working. It takes a while, I think, to discern the anxiety versus like the signals, right? And especially because they haven't been in a lot of situations to where I'm not around and they need to kind of lean on that.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of the times if I'm getting anxious, it's hard for them to tell if they're picking up on me being like, oh, there's something wrong, we need to move, or if it's actually them. So I think as they get older, but they're getting like weird kind of connections that click.
That's so cool.
Hmm.
So you do you live in the Appalachians now, or just you do,
Hmm.
just not up in the hills, or
Right. We live in like the foothills of the Smoky Mountains. So
nice?
we live kind of in Appalachia, but like on the edge of it. Growing up in deep Appalachia, I wouldn't call this very
Yeah,
Appalachia, because I mean, we
yeah,
live in the
yeah.
suburbs, we have ice cream trucks that come around, and if it's Appalachia, it's like very high class. Not high class, but like just very developed Appalachia. Because back home
Okay.
we
No.
didn't have a lot of this.
Yeah, yeah.
But we still got the mountains, which is great because I go hiking all the time. So,
Oh, that's good.
hmm.
That's really good. One of the things you were telling me the other day was about how your grandmother would know which herbs to choose for
Hmm.
somebody when she was helping them to heal. Can you tell us a little bit about what that was like?
Yeah, my dad's mom would just like pick up random stuff, and like at the time I don't think I kind of realized what was going on. I like she would teach herbalism and I would see her grab for things, and after a while I kind of gotten to the point where I was like, this does this and this does that, and kind of like learning on my own. She died when I was younger, so I didn't get like a ton of training from her. But then I started noticing that she wouldn't have grabbed what should have been grabbed, right? She was just literally grabbing like, whatever she felt the vibe called for, which was crazy. So it's awesome to see kind of, I guess, how things pass, because that's like my dad's side. So, like, typically all of the women in my family get the like little spooky intuitive hits, but that would have been my dad's mom. So, it's cool to see kind of like how it's on both sides, I guess, which makes me think it's like it's just Appalachia. Like it's just Appalachia doing her thing.
I think so. I love that. And I only just started recently learning a little bit more about Appalachia, who moved there and why.
Hmm.
And it seems, please correct me, it seems like a lot of people moved there for their safety, to get
Hmm.
away from oppressive systems that really wanted to do away with them.
Right.
And so it takes guts, intelligence, intuition, or whatever you want to call it,
Hmm.
spiritual team working overtime. Um, in addition to, I do feel like certain places have energy that absolutely resonates. Um, there are elementals that are amazing. I don't know about Appalachia, but I'm assuming that may be part of what's going on. But then Appalachia also has like a whole host of like special type of character spiritual beings that like I don't know
Yeah.
anything about.
Yeah.
But I think, when people talk about Appalachians, they come from amazing stock. Fighters who believe in freedom. I think, I don't know if you fill me in. It seems like there's more intermingling among different groups
Hmm.
because it's, more about the person than about external society.
Yeah.
Um, and I like all of those characteristics. I think that's really good. Um, I think there's a line in the Robin Costner version of Robin Hood where the guy whose life he had saved, the Moor, the black guy, who
Hmm.
accompanied him back to England basically to protect his life, and
Hmm.
as thanks, there was a little kid who saw this black guy, first black person he'd ever seen, and he was like, "What?" And so I think it's Morgan Freeman, not sure, but Morgan Freeman goes, "Yes, Allah loves wondrous diversity," and I was like,
Hmm.
"Yes, that's such a great way to put it."
Yeah. I mean, I think at the end of the day, well, Appalachia sticks together really well. Like Appalachians will definitely help you out. They were super scrappy because we've always had to be, right? I mean, we've had multiple different natural disasters. We've had situations to where you have to just rely on yourselves and each other because our infrastructure goes down. And, my parents had an ice storm and they got their power knocked out for like, I think it was like 2 weeks, and they just had to like, figure things out with their neighbors. And that's not super uncommon to where, especially if you're near the really rural parts, you are last on the line for them to reconnect your lines. So you've got
Yes.
to have food and water. You've got to know, how to do all of these things on your own. So we're very scrappy people, but they're also a bit distrusting of people just outside of the area. And I think most people are would be absolutely fine. They will welcome you in and give you the shirt off of their back as long as you're not like wearing a suit. They they're a little bit more leery of just like business people and the government because of like the history of the region. I mean, I don't know how many times the Blair Mountain, the battle at Blair Mountain where essentially a bunch of coal miners got together and wanted to form a union, and like the government came and it did not end well. So there's a long-standing history of just like the government or, powers of whatever, trying to oppress the people of West Virginia and take their land, take their resources or whatever. So they will welcome individuals. And I mean, I always, when I drive home, I'm always really happy when I hit the line because I'm like, at least if anything happens, like if my car breaks down, I'm home. So like I know that like if I get pulled over, like I get stuck on the side of the road, somebody will be here in like 5 minutes and like I'll be taken care of. It's not a big deal. Um, because like they'll
So
absolutely help you.
nice.
Yeah. But it's also kind of like they'll have these like long driveways and they put like a gate at the end of them. And at sunset, they'll go and they'll pull their gate over and like don't go on anybody's property at night because they are very protective. So it's kind of like a catch-22. When I'm back home, I kind of let my accent show a little bit just to be like, hey, I'm Appalachian. I just need help.
I speak
They're
the
usually
language.
yes, yeah. And it's just because people typically, I mean, just treated them poorly for generations. But they'll absolutely they love to help people and help other people see succeed and survive and really like flourish. And they'll do anything. I mean, they had roads back up and running when Hurricane Helene hit over here so fast, and they were like packing supplies in on mules just to get it into them. Yeah.
Yes, when you were talking about the ice cream truck coming through, I was thinking of that. I was like, well,
Hmm.
only if it comes by mule.
Hmm. Yeah, they got supplies into those people really fast. And they were hiking, and I mean, it's one of those things where they were just calling the people that knew the woods the best because the people that know the
Mhm.
woods know how you can get into these areas even if the roads don't exist. And it's really genuinely not safe for a lot of people to go through the woods by themselves if they're not used to walking through the woods, especially at night and especially in our unmarked trails, because we're gonna have to send search and rescue out after you. So
Yeah,
really got together and tried to help and get supplies to as many people as they could, especially insulin because we have a lot of diabetics and they were trucking it in very quickly.
I was so impressed with the people.
Yeah.
Just amazing. And it was, heartbreaking everything that happened. And certainly eye-opening. You touched on a few things. And it's good, gotta be super careful about how things get talked about. Um, but yeah, I mean, I've been watching that and I was so impressed. And um, one of the hallmarks of an oppressed people is very specialized language. Accents that are not easy, inflections, all sorts of little things. So whether you live in the Bronx or in, Watts, LA, or, Croatia, or in the Appalachians or in rural New England,
Mhm.
they're those fine little things are so important in language.
Mhm. Yeah,
And
and I
my
mean, yeah, it's the language and it's also kind of like how you say things and like when you say
Yes,
things. Like there's a certain way to say
yes,
hello and a certain way to say
yes.
goodbye. And yeah, it's definitely a whole learned culture experience. That people usually laugh at me that I'm like, you guys don't do that? Is that an Appalachian thing? And we're like, that's definitely an Appalachian thing. Okay.
I think that's beautiful. I think, our cultures are important and valuable, and they exist the way they are in the good ways for
Mhm.
good reasons. And I think it's wonderful that you are like combining the best of all these different worlds that you stand amongst. And PhD and super intuitive and all of these things together, and then in addition to that you're combining your work to help people, as many people as possible, which is just such a beautiful thing, and I really absolutely applaud you.
Oh, thank you. I just like people need help. People are smart enough to understand all of it, and it drives me insane that people try to gatekeep the knowledge to like make themselves up on this little pedestal when in reality, like everybody can understand this. You just have to actually explain it to them without the jargon.
Well, that
And
and people need to have the access to the information,
yeah.
because
Mhm.
and like if you listen to what we're taught, a lot of times it's not the right thing. So it's great that you're providing information that's actually helpful.
I'm excited. I cannot wait to see what it grows into and how many people it can help and hopefully turn around the like huge increase in diseases that we're seeing right now, and actually get people to start feeling better because that's the whole point is if you feel better, you can succeed better, you can live happier, healthier lives, and we can try to start turning things around, hopefully. So,
That's wonderful. What's your website again, where people
oh,
can find you?
geneticsforthepeople.com. And I'm on TikTok at just Katelin Hubbard, and then everything else is just Katelin Hubbard. It's just my full name.
Very cool. Very cool. Is there any parting kind of information or wisdom that you want to share with people? Um,
I would say that, you can absolutely understand and learn all of this. You don't need a fancy degree. You don't need a PhD. You just need maybe a few minutes a night just to read and don't get discouraged. It's a lot to learn, but it's fine because we're gonna like baby walk you through everything. And we're here to help make things that are complicated just in plain English because that's the problem is you've never been presented it in plain English, but everyone is more than capable of understanding all of this stuff. It's not something that's out of your reach, and you can use it to help you and your family feel better and be healthier.
Woo! Thank you, Caitlin, so much. I'm so glad that you've been on here with me, and I look forward to your continued success. Um, and hold on just a second. So thanks everybody for being here with us. You can find me at peacockandpaisley.com, and I will look forward to all of the beautiful comments that everybody's going to leave about what's going on for them and questions that they might have.